So it feels like I can continue to feel this negative emotion if I need to. I don't need to react to it. I'm able to hold space for it, and I can choose something different peacefully. That's what it looks like if you're ready. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey, everybody. I am so excited to be talking with you all today. We're talking about awareness, allowing, and wisdom as a process. But I'm going to take a minute just for myself, and hopefully you don't mind, but I'm taking a minute to just sit in the reality that this is one, if not the last. I haven't decided. I might try to record one more before we leave. But one of the last episodes I'm going to record in New Zealand. And it's so insane that we are wrapping this up. I know I've been saying that forever because we've been wrapping this up for a month or two. As I'm anticipating the end of a 6-month adventure, but really we leave in a week. By the time this episode airs, I will be back in the States. So I'm soaking in the last of the summer. I'm getting ready for the winter. I heard it just snowed again where we are, which is going to be fine. I actually really love the snow, but it is going to be a change in climate. So as one of the last episodes we're recording from New Zealand, I wanted to do something that has been on my mind during this entire trip. And if you've been following along, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been following along, I'll catch you up to speed. We've been traveling for 6 months internationally. It's been a dream, a lifelong dream that came to fruition. That makes no sense, that I can't believe we did. That's been the biggest adventure of my life. And also, unbeknownst to me, also one of the biggest challenges of my life because my nervous system has had so many interesting ideas of what's not safe. And in retrospect, I can totally understand. I could see it in the moment too. I didn't anticipate it. I thought I would feel differently than I did, which is really, really fascinating. I've traveled enough to know that normally I'm totally fine and safe and just live in the moment. But I think because it was an extended period of time, we were trying to balance travel and some type of normalcy. Normalcy. I say that word wrong. I've realized lately. Normalcy. I and my husband were trying to do some work so I could keep talking to you here on the podcast, keep serving my people like crazy inside of League. And my girls were doing school remotely. So we were balancing that. But I think more than anything else, it was because there were cultures and language differences and food differences. And it was I believe the longevity of that, because it didn't start hitting until we were about 3 or 4 weeks in. And about the time we landed in Spain and we were there for a month, it started to, well, I shouldn't say that because I told you about drama in the train station if you go back and listen to that. So it was happening before, but it really kicked up in Spain. And so that was in, I want to say September-ish, October. And so we've been having this little run with my nervous system, or rather I've been having this little run in with my nervous system in a good way. And it's completely up-leveled every aspect of my life, of my parenting. So grateful for the experience. I really do believe the obstacle is the way. And so leaning into this has been really helpful. And today, as I come to the end of this adventure, I wanted to talk about this process that I have been going through over and over and over again as I lean all the way in to what feels like an obstacle, what feels like isn't working, when my nervous system was trying to tell me that things were dangerous, that weren't dangerous, when it was overreacting to, it felt like everything. I would go through this process. And it is when we go through this process that we become more of ourselves, more of who we really are. So I know if you're a member of League, you've heard me say or talk about this concept rather before. If you've just been listening to the podcast, I know I've talked about it, but let me just say it again. I truly believe that parenting is one of the most amazing adventures that we can engage in. It's a course in becoming a new person. If we believe, and I believe this, and I hope you believe this too, because I think this is a beautiful thing to believe. If we believe that the obstacle is the way, if we believe that the way we get more emotionally resilient and mature is by feeling emotions, if we believe that it's by facing challenges that we become stronger, and we don't have to look much further than the physical journey of getting stronger in our muscles and in our body. It's a challenge. It's a breakdown of our muscles. It's pushing ourselves. It's not the path of least resistance to get physically fit. And it's the same with life. And the thing I love about parenting, I love so many things about it. I love the relationships we build. I just love being a parent. I love the humans that I get to have in my world for my whole life after having them. I also love the environment that is created when you're a parent. The challenges, the obstacles are everywhere because our kids aren't thinking about how to bend over backwards to make our life easy. They're being immature humans that have preferences and ideas, and they push back and they say things that maybe an adult wouldn't say and do things that an adult wouldn't do. And as a result, we get to encounter ourselves every time we're up against an obstacle. Our brain wants to say, oh, it's the kids that are causing me to feel this way. But it's our nervous system, it's our thoughts, it's our perceptions that are causing us to show up this way. And yeah, we might want to teach our kids to clean their room or teach them to be kinder to their sibling. And that is part of parenting. But when we self-confront every time we get triggered, every time it feels not okay, what's going on, we become more emotionally capable to help our child, to guide our child, to direct our child in a way that will really work, that is really productive, that is going to work in harmony with their nervous system. So the topic today is the process of awareness, allowing, and wisdom. And like I said, I have had to use this at a higher clip this last 6 months than I have previously. It's always been a process that I've used very heavily. When I first had that baby powder blizzard moment and started figuring out what in the world had just happened that allowed me to be the kind of parent I wanted to be in that moment, I started stumbling on this process. I started unknowingly playing around with it until it became solidified for myself based on what I was discovering and learning and reading and experimenting with. And so it's something that's, I would attribute a lot of my growth to as I look back on my parenting and I look back on how I am who I am now. So I contribute a lot of my success, a lot of my growth to this process of awareness, allowing, wisdom. And this is a component of what we do in League. We have a process called PEACE, the PEACE process, that is a 5-step process where I put this all together. So if you're in League, if you've done a pivot, you know what I'm talking about because we hit it hard. It's the equivalent of deciding to go to the gym every day and dialing in your diet if you really want to hit a fitness goal. You have to do the work to get there. You have to get your diet figured out. You have to move your body. And the PEACE process is that for our minds, that for our nervous system, to get it exercised and working well. So before I can dive into the awareness, allowing, wisdom process, I have to first do a quick recap on STEAR. And this is a critical component of the PEACE process that we talk about in League all the time. So if you're in League, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But since not everybody here is in League, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, which if you aren't in League or you haven't done a pivot, which to be clear, what the difference is that the pivot is also part of League. So you can purchase League, which is a membership where you get to come in and get coaching and get pivot and get mastery, which are 2 separate courses that build on each other. Pivot is a prerequisite for mastery. And then you get access to the app and the tools and all of the things. So it's a more fluid program. Initially, that's all I offered. I didn't have it divided into pivot and CMP mastery at the time. It was just one big, I called it the master's course or something. It was this huge knowledge base that I took people through. But then I divided it out last year and I made the 8-week parenting pivot, which this is in the beginning of 2024. We divided what I was teaching into 2 parts. So the 8-week parenting pivot is this program that you go through and you get the entire CMP framework in 8 weeks. You still get the live coaching while you're part of that pivot and the support in the app and all of that. And then what most people do is they'll transition into League if they haven't joined League to begin with. And then in League, you still have access to the pivot. You can repeat the pivot as many times as you want while you're in League, but you also get access to this deeper dive, slower cadence where we're letting the principles and the pillars of Connect Method Parenting and the life-changing properties of the PEACE process work their magic. And that takes time, just like seasons take time. To build new neural pathways takes time. So that's the difference. So League has pivot in it, and then you transition right into mastery, and then you can buy pivot as a standalone product. If you want to try that out, or if you only want that, that's totally fine too. So whether you're in league or you've just done a pivot, you will know what this is, what the peace process is. But if not, we're going to go through it right now. Oh, and I forgot to mention that if you haven't joined Pivot or haven't joined League or purchased Pivot, that's a better way to say it, just be checking out the Connect Method Parenting website periodically to see when we've opened those up if you want to come have so much fun with us in there and meet the most amazing humans ever. The parents in there are absolutely incredible. Okay, so back to STEAR. It's a process where we become very, very aware of why we are creating the results in our life. So we have these situations outside of us. They're outside of our control. I'm going to use a very simple, straightforward example, rain. So rain is a situation I have no control over. It was raining this morning. It rains here a lot, way more than in Arizona, where I was born and raised, which it didn't rain at all. And if it rained, we declared it a national holiday. It was so fun. But for most people, rain, if you're not from the desert where you get 1 inch a year, rain can sometimes get in the way. So let's say I'm from Washington and it rains a lot there. So when the situation is rain, I wake up and it's raining and I've planned a trip to the park with my kids that day to get out some of their energy. My thought could be, I can't believe it's raining again. The kids are going to go crazy being stuck inside all day. So then my emotion is frustrated. It could be a lot of things, but we're going to go with frustrated. And the actions I take are, I'm edgy. I stew about the weather. Maybe I call a friend and I complain. I'm waiting for the kids to have crazy behavior because they have a lot of energy that we didn't get out. I'm anticipating the house being destroyed because we're stuck inside all day. And so the result is I'm upset with the weather and I'm upset with my kids. And if I have a little awareness, maybe I'm upset with myself for being such a cranky mom that day. So we have these components. We have situation, then we have the thought about it, then we have the emotional response that comes as a result of the thought, the actions we take because of how we're thinking and feeling, and the ultimate result that we create in our life, or really the life that we have. So when I first teach this to someone, often as soon as they learn STEAR, they do this thought download to get all the thoughts out, and then they do what we call an unintentional STEAR, which is where we're looking at what happened in a past situation so that we can discover why we created those results we did. So they get to this point and they want to change things immediately. This is how I was when I first started realizing what was going on. As I would find a unintentional STEAR that was driving the show, and I would think, I need to get this out of my mind yesterday as soon as possible. It must leave. It must depart. I hate this part of me. So we find out what we're thinking. We see the problem that is causing us. Then we see it as a problem, and then we don't want that anymore. So we want it gone right now. So we try to do a thought swap for something better that feels better. So we learn the STEAR. We learn that our thoughts are creating our emotions, and unconscious thoughts for most of us. But our unconscious thoughts, or our perceptions about the world, about rain, about our kids' behavior, about the state of our house, about our past mistakes, all of those filters, those unconscious thoughts or perceptions, and sometimes they're conscious, but like I said, mostly they're not. And so those are running the show. So we have these thoughts that are creating emotions, and then those emotions are creating actions, or driving our actions or behaviors, and ultimately creating the results. And I love seeing this chain of events, as I have had a more highly sensitive nervous system for the past 6 months than I did back home. I have been able to look at it and inspect and do inquiry about my nervous system at a deeper level. I'm so happy that I've been able to do it. And I love it when I see the chain of events and I see, oh, it's because of this thought. That's really interesting. At the train station, if you remember that episode, and I don't remember the name of it, but I think the title is something like Drama at the Train Station. And my thought was, when my daughter walked away, went up the stairs, and she didn't have cell phone reception, and we were in this massive, 4 or 5 story, it felt huge. It was at least 3 stories train station in Germany. I think we were in Berlin, and it was a gorgeous train station, but it looks just like the ones that you see in the movies. I think it was Liam Neeson. It was called Taken in the 90s, and his daughter, I think, goes to Germany, at least Europe, and she gets abducted. Now, albeit she gets abducted because he's involved in something and they're trying to get at him. But my brain is thinking something terrible is going to happen. There's some bad people here waiting at the train station to snag unsuspecting tourists. That's where my nervous system went. It totally catastrophized. So when I saw this and I noticed the thought, it was such a beautiful gift to be able to allow my body to have the awareness, to allow myself to be there, and to gain the wisdom to move through it. And your ability to think and create and feel is one of the most incredible tools we have. When we know about this think, feel, create cycle, we can do it intentionally. And I think that's one of the most unique things about humans. But this powerful tool that we have, which is the ability to intentionally think, to intentionally create our responses, if we do the work, if we put in the reps, we can change our perceptions around situations that used to be triggery, that no longer will be triggery. I hear this every day inside of League, that someone will say, this behavior, my child's tantrum, the messy bedroom, used to be very problematic for me. And now I'm able to navigate it in a calm, collected, and even connected way. But if we aren't looking at it intentionally, if we aren't doing the work to notice our thoughts, to have the awareness, and then to allow ourselves to be there without making it a problem and feel our emotions fully, and then to use the wisdom that we gain from that process to grow, then it's completely neglected and we keep just doing the same thing over and over again. So this is one of the first things that we do, whether you just buy the pivot as a standalone experience or you come in and you do the pivot as part of League and continue on from the get-go. We do this in week 1. We start off by focusing on this. And I say, hey guys, we're going to look at your brain. We're going to see what's going on in there, because we can't change our parenting unless it starts by changing ourselves. We have to be the change that we want to see in our home. It's vital that we start by focusing on this first. When someone starts doing this for the first time, they often don't even recognize what's going on inside of their brain. And they definitely don't notice initially that these thoughts that they've been thinking are choosable thoughts. They share their thoughts in a way that when you first start doing this work, that you think are just the facts. That's how I was back in the day when I had no awareness around this. I would just walk into a room and my brain would spit out all of these thoughts about my kids being lazy and entitled, and this room shouldn't look like this. And I would just have a nervous system take over immediately. And I thought it was just the facts. I didn't realize I had any control there. I thought it was just an observation of reality. And the only way to solve this was when my kids started behaving better, when my house started being cleaner, all of these things. When someone would just help me out. It's really interesting to look back now, but that's not the way that we become a self-sufficient solver and grower. That's not a great word, but like adapting and becoming better, that we grow into the version of ourselves that is always there, that's just waiting to come out. It's the seed. All of it's right inside of us. We're the seed, and we're just trying to water it through all of these obstacles and challenges so that the part of us that's dormant inside comes to life. So it's possible that we can think differently about all of these areas of our life that are causing us angst. So I was working with someone a few months ago, and she was telling me about her child and how her child was really challenging, and she was really frustrated by that, which I honor and respect those thoughts. I love to honor the part of us that has a story about the challenge that is wanting to stay in this stuck place. And I said, in the most loving, kind way, do you see how that thought that your child is really challenging is a thought? And I'm not saying you don't believe it, or that it doesn't feel true, or that a part of you 100% believes that it's true. But I do want you to see that it's your thought about the behavior. And the reason I want you to see that is that when you think that way, you feel a certain way, which creates a result that in this case you're not liking. And when we're not liking how we're feeling or how we're showing up, when our child behaves this way, to notice that it's a thought and that it's possible that I could create a new way of interacting with her when this challenge comes up, when this behavior starts happening, is really empowering. It's freedom. So we could change that thought to something like, my daughter is doing XYZ, and that's interesting. Let's use a real example. My daughter's throwing a tantrum. Wow, that's really interesting. Or I wonder what's going on for my daughter to cause her to behave like that. Or I think my daughter must really be struggling. Or I want to help my daughter through this. She's not able to help herself right now. She's not able to regulate. Can I help her process these emotions so that she can come back to homeostasis? So you could see the situation differently versus my daughter's behavior is driving me crazy. She's a maniac. She makes my life so hard. If she would just stop being so dramatic. You could go on and on. The story, the drama that our brains have, it's going to be there. They love it. Our brains love the little dopamine hit. Mine does too. I was just talking to my husband about something and he said, do you see the drama that your brain's trying to create? And I'm like, yes, thank you for pointing that out. Just needed a reminder. And I needed to go through the awareness, allow, and wisdom process. So we can see situations differently if we don't like the results that we're getting. And it doesn't mean you become passive or that you lie to yourself. You're not negating that something might need to be done. You might need to set a limit. You might need to help come alongside. You might need to separate children if there's fighting going on. You're not negating your responsibilities. You're not stepping away. You're not becoming passive. You're actually telling yourself the truth about the situation. But because you're now thinking about it differently, you're able to take productive action. And sometimes just seeing it is enough. You don't have to even change anything right away. You're just starting to notice, wow, I am very triggered when my daughter has a tantrum. And we sit in the awareness of it before we do anything differently with our daughter, and really before we try to change anything with ourselves. Because if I'm actively being triggered and I'm sorting that out, I'm trying to gain the awareness I need to do something different, I need to give myself time. I need to give myself time to sort that out, not just try to thought swap. Why should you think something better? This is what I did. Probably for the first 2 or 3 years, I figured this out. I was constantly noticing a thought that I didn't like and trying to jump right into a new thought, bypassing all the emotional, all the nervous system stuff, all the awareness around why it made sense I felt that way. I didn't ever go through the neutralizing stage. I just wanted to fix it right now. Fix it right now. I want it to be better so bad. I was in so much pain. But oftentimes the solution, once we see the thought that's not serving us, is to become very familiar with the thought, to have a lot of awareness and a lot of allowing. That gives us the wisdom to start to shift, to start to believe something different about our child. And a lot of times I'll say, I don't want you to try to change anything right now when I'm working with a client, when I'm working with a parent doing this, because I really want you to understand where that frustration and resistance to your child's behavior is coming from. But in order to do that, you can't become stuck and disempowered by the thought that your child is so challenging or that you are so frustrated. If you've had a nervous system takeover as a result of that thought and emotion, and you're so stuck in the wave of that being the true reality, there's no getting out in that moment. We just have to sit and be there with ourselves and wait for that to subside so that our prefrontal cortex can come back online. We can go back into a parasympathetic state, which is that homeostasis where we're not feeling like we're in fight or flight, and access the highest part of ourselves. So we have to first consider that it's possible that what I'm telling myself about this situation isn't true. So that's step one, awareness. So the first thing we have to do before we can change our life, before we can change our parenting, before we can go from a correction-based to a connection-based framework in parenting, is to go through the process of awareness. This is for every aspect of our life. I know I'm using parenting examples because I think that's the best. It's the best course that any of us have signed up for change, for self-help. If you want to be a better version of yourself, sign up for parenting. It's going to give you so many chances to iterate on this, but it really applies to everything. If you are challenged with people at work, with an in-law, with your mother, with your sister, all of this applies. So, and how we do anything is how we do everything. So everything is parenting. That's why when we're in league, we're talking about all of the things, because if I'm managing real estate and I have renters and I am so annoyed at the renters because they keep reporting that their dishwasher is broken every year and that they need all of these things fixed and it's costing me so much money and so much time and I'm so annoyed with them, you better believe that's going to impact how I show up with my kids. So we need to look at all of it. Okay, so step one, awareness. So the first thing we have to do before we can change our life and our parenting is to go through the process of awareness. And this is the peace process. I'm not going to go into all of the aspects of peace, but I am going to talk about it generally and conceptually through these 3 focuses. So first we have peace. And one of the things that we're working on through those steps, and it's an acronym, by the way, it's this 5-step process built into the app. The CMP app is so cool. So it leads you right through it. It helps you every step of the way. I love the peace process tool inside of the app. But the first thing that we're after as we go through those steps is awareness, to get present to what we're thinking and feeling about a situation. And so this mom was telling me all the negative things about her daughter. I then showed her her thoughts and said, can you see that if you keep believing and feeling this and you have this nervous system takeover, you're in fight or flight mode, and that negative spin isn't going to turn into a positive spin on its own. So the first question of awareness is, where can we start to see all of your thoughts and emotions that are negative, that aren't serving you? Can you see that your attitude isn't aligned to the goal you're trying to create, the ultimate outcome? And can you notice that's why you're feeling so terrible. It's because we have a terrible attitude about our daughter. And so then I feel terrible. A lot of us are so in our brain and not spending a lot of time reflecting on our life. Hello, that was me. That was so me back in the day before I found this work, before I discovered the process. I wasn't reflecting. I wasn't reflecting at all. And that's often what parents are like when they first come into league, not after they come into league, and not everybody. I mean, some of the parents who come in, maybe they don't know how to do it, but they want to be aware of their thoughts. So they're so open to the possibility. And they've listened to my podcast, they've read the book, and they realize, oh, I have impact and influence here on how I'm seeing my child. I want to look at my own thoughts. But, if you've never done this work, you might have the conceptual awareness, but then when I lead you through a specific situation, bedtime, this child's behavior, homework, and your brain is so dead set on the perception and the thoughts that you've had about that scenario, that person, that behavior for so many years, that's when the rubber meets the road. And that's when we really get to do the inquiry and find all of the things that we haven't been catching and put this into life. That's the beauty of coming into a container like League, is to be able to do that. But that's what we want to start doing. We want to go from having no idea, or at least no idea how to apply it to the situation, that this unawareness that what we're doing, that what we're thinking, that what we're feeling, these negative thoughts and emotions are creating our life. And so when someone comes in like that, which I love because I love showing up for them, I love helping them see the reality and the possibility that they can create for themselves exactly what they want to create. They don't have to wait on anyone. It's not the best news ever. It's freedom. Freedom is what it is. I remember when this started to hit me. It hit me in the Great Baby Powder Blizzard of 2007, my epic story that started to move things for me in my own brain. But I remember seeing it in that moment, realizing that it wasn't anything outside of me that changed. It was me that changed that whole situation. The mess was still there. The baby powder was still all over the playroom. The kids had still done it. But when I changed my perception, I softened my heart. I looked at my child in the eyes. I laughed about it. And I realized this is just baby powder. It's just that. That's all it is. That's what it is. Kids having fun. Me being disconnected, so worried about my morning list of doing the dishes and laundry, and that I didn't pay attention, and they got into baby powder. That's all this is. And I changed, and then we laughed and we took a picture and we cleaned it up in no time. What I thought was going to take forever and be an awful experience. We were all going to be in a bad mood and nobody was going to want to help me. And the kids, because my kids at that time were little, and they helped. They thought it was so fun to help. And that's because I changed, not because the situation changed. The situation changed because I changed. Does that make sense? So I love when we see this, when I see this awareness go off in a mother's eyes that I'm working with, and she realizes, oh, I thought that this was something that was going to be really hard to change. I was going to have to wait on so many other people to buy in, but I don't. I see the freedom click. Yes, I get it. So when a parent comes in, and either I'm able to point out this fact during one of our live calls, and then she sees it as she continues to do this work, this awareness, allowing, wisdom work inside Daily Peace, this 5-step process that she is going to be continuing to practice, doing the inquiry work. Sometimes it feels tedious, but it needs to be done. That's the work to create these new ways of being, these new neural pathways to change our default as a parent. So when she's able to see her thoughts are creating her reality, that is when things start to shift. She can start to see the effect of her thinking and the power of her thinking. Okay. So that is just the awareness piece. When you're aware of the thought, when you think about your child in this way, when you treat them in this certain way, you're going to feel a certain way, you're going to get a certain result. When you become aware of that, when you think about them in that way, you're going to get a certain result, the same result you've been getting. But when you think about them differently, you're going to create a different result. And we're not trying to change the thinking in the moment. We're just trying to realize that it's possible. I have the awareness that if I continue to think this way, I'm going to continue to get the result I'm getting. And I also have the awareness that if I was able to think a different way about my child, I would have a different result created. So we hypothesize it first before we try to actually think about the situation in real life differently. We see that it's possible. You have to recognize the power of how you are thinking about them now. And that awareness comes from this work, from looking at our thoughts, from seeing the thought I'm having about my child's behavior and understanding that it's creating the life I have. Okay, so that awareness comes from doing that. And specifically what this looks like is you sit down and you type out or you write out your thoughts about the situation. If you're a member of League, it means you pull out the CMP app and you open up the Peace tool and it walks you through every step of the way. It also means you're probably going to get on a call during office hours. That's what we call our live calls. And you're going to ask some questions. You're going to talk through the thing. You're going to say, I can tell that I have this result that I don't like and I'm stuck. I'm unaware of how to get out of it. It's beautiful. See, I see the possibility, but I can't figure out the path. Oftentimes that's what's happening because my prefrontal cortex is offline. So I need to borrow your prefrontal cortex. I need to rely on someone else's prefrontal cortex to help me solve the problem until mine comes back online because I'm agitated about the child's behavior. So you talk to someone about what you're thinking. That's really what coaching is, becoming aware. So I show the thoughts to all of the parents that I work with. They dish them up. They say, oh, this is what's happening. They think they're just describing the child's behavior. And I say, let's take a look at that thought and story that you just shared. I'm able to show them what their brains are doing. And that's what we do on live calls. So if you're in League, jump on a live call, you all. And if you're not, you can do this work to the best you can on your own. You can start looking at your thoughts. You can start having inquiry. That is so powerful. So you write down your thoughts. You recognize that each of those sentences are choices. And then you can start asking yourself, do I like the way I'm thinking about this thing? Do I like the way I'm thinking about my child? Do I like the way I'm thinking about my job or my husband or my finances? I'd go through all the areas slowly, not all at once, but eventually as they percolate up, I want to investigate all the different things that feel like they're not working. Because how we do anything is how we do everything. And yes, not all of those are parenting things, but yes, all of those are parenting things because we're impacted, like I said before, by all of the areas of our life. If someone's having a challenge at work, unless you're superhuman and you've done this work, it's really easy for that to come into your home, into your parenting. And all of the thoughts about all those different areas are up for change if you want them to change. But first, you have to become aware of your thinking. And an easy way to get started is by finding a result in your life that you're not crazy about and asking yourself, what thought am I thinking that's creating that result in my life? So if bedtime is a problem for you and your thought is, bedtime's a disaster, nobody listens, the kids are out of control, I feel hopeless, those are my thoughts. I'm thinking about bedtime. So I would do that. I would find some things that aren't working and notice all of the thoughts that you're having about them. That's going to tell you why you're getting the results in your life. And then for fun, what I want you to do as well is I want you to flip it. I want you to go the other side. I want you to pick an area of your life that you love the results you're getting. I want you to ask yourself the same question. What am I thinking about this? What am I feeling about this? That's going to tell you so much. Maybe you are loving the way you're showing up for yourself physically. You've been going to the gym, you've been eating well, and you are just so happy with those results. Then ask yourself, what thought am I thinking that's causing this result in my life? Write down everything that comes to mind. In both cases, it's going to show you so much. So that's the first step in changing your life and your parenting is awareness. Being aware of what you're thinking about people, about situations. What am I thinking? Okay, again, here's a little warning. 2 things happen oftentimes when you become aware. First, you want to immediately change before you really get the impact of your thinking, before you truly understand the effect of it, before you've gone through all of the allowing. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. You just want to instantly shift. You want to change. You want to stop feeling, thinking, and creating that result. And you want to move to something else immediately. So that's the number one mistake. That was my number one mistake for sure. That's what I see with other parents too. They'll come desperately just trying to believe something new. That is never going to work. That's why so many mantras don't work, because they aren't emotionalized. They don't mean anything. We don't resonate with them at all. So we have to have the emotional match to the statement for it to change our life. If I don't believe it, it's not going to do anything. Okay, so don't rush to try to fix it. Mistake number 2 is people want to beat themselves up. I was so guilty of this too. So they look at the thoughts and they think, oh, I'm a terrible person. I can't believe that I've been thinking that. Who in their right mind would be thinking that about their child? I'm such a mess. I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure this out. Why am I thinking so many negative thoughts? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that my brain is saying that. I wasn't aware that I was thinking this way about my child, my husband, my friend, my house, my life. Oh my gosh, there must be something wrong with me. I have so many negative thoughts. Okay, so let's not do that either. It makes total sense that we have these thoughts. This is the way our human brain works. We have negative thoughts. They're trying to protect us. So, of course, we're having negative thoughts. Of course, our brain is saying this, and it doesn't mean anything about you. I think it's amazing that you're willing to look at it. Most humans won't. They avoid, they resist, they react, but they don't inspect. And when you are beating yourself up and thinking something's wrong with you for having completely normal triggered thoughts and judgmental thoughts about people and things, that's not going to get you into a space where you're going to create something better for yourself or your kids. Nope. It will never, never, never happen. So beware of those two fatal flaws that will keep you stuck spinning and creating results you don't want and feeling really bad as you have more awareness and you can't do anything about it because you're stuck judging yourself. So step number 2 in shifting into a new way of parenting and living the most amazing life is allowing. In peace, this is the 3rd step, the A step, allowing. And I'm so glad that we're talking about it here on the podcast. I don't think I could talk about this step enough. It's the most underappreciated, underused, neglected step for all of you all in league and doing the pivot. I want you to really pay attention because this is a very important step, and I want you to utilize the resources we provide there so that you can truly drop into it. And if you're not in league or pivot yet, I want you to listen to what I say so that you can start practicing this right now. So allowing is this beautiful process of coming alongside our nervous system, not making ourselves wrong for what we're feeling and giving ourselves time and space and support as we have the emotional experience. So once you become aware of your thinking without trying to change it, without trying to beat yourself up, we're ready for the allow phase of this 3-step process I'm talking about today. So allowing is about truly allowing yourself to be exactly where you are and accepting where you are. Allowing and accepting yourself that you are creating your current results in your life without judgment. We make sense of it. Of course, my nervous system thinks this is a problem because it was a problem for me when I was a child. I wasn't allowed to act this way, or messy rooms were not okay. And so I felt unsafe. So now I'm having that same filter with my children. So we can make sense of it. And whether you know why you have it or not, why you're so triggered or not, it doesn't matter. Just know that there is some reason that your nervous system decided to think that this was not okay. So we make sense of it. We allow ourselves to be where we are. And when I say creating, I mean the feelings that you're creating for yourself every day. You're allowing yourself and you're accepting yourself to see what you're creating in your life without judgment. So that's what I mean when I use the word creating. I mean that the feelings that you're creating for yourself every day, the actions that are driving you towards this result make sense. Can you allow yourself to be where you are without judgment? Can you accept it without resistance? Can you have compassion for yourself? Can you create more awareness and see what's going on in your mind by allowing yourself to be where you are? So once we do this, we can allow ourselves to see the true impact of those thoughts and those emotions and what they're having and doing and creating for us with compassion and with tenderness. We must do this. We must feel the emotions that come up. Otherwise, they're going to get stuck in our body and we're going to find ourselves reacting again. We're going to get frustrated. We have to let go of the frustration, allow the frustration. Can we accept that we've been doing our best? Can you allow yourself to be imperfect? I would say this is the hardest part. The whole allow phase is the hardest part. But for a lot of us in particular, not getting it right is so hard. Being a parent is one of the most important things we've ever signed up to do, and we want to get it right. So the awareness step is more straightforward, and people tend to be able to get that a little bit easier, and then they want to just jump into change. But what's more uncomfortable, what they are more reluctant to typically do, is to allow and to accept and to feel. We want to just get rid of it. We want to avoid. We want it to go away. But the work of neutralizing the judgmental charge we have towards ourselves, towards other people, this is so important. This is where we come alongside our nervous system instead of fighting against it. And then we sit in it and we allow ourselves to feel all the emotions. We relax all of the muscles in our body as we're thinking about the thing. We allow our body to know it's safe to feel these emotions. We allow our minds and our nervous systems to know that we are doing our best. We allow ourselves to create more emotional capacity and resilience as we feel these emotions all the way through. As we go from mad to sad, as we feel the frustration and then release the frustration, we stop fighting reality and submit or surrender to what is. And we allow that sadness to come up. We allow the regret to come up. And that is when our nervous system feels safe. And you'll feel a shift in your body after you've cried really hard, after you've let yourself, whether you've literally cried with tears or you've just allowed yourself to be in the emotion, you can feel the shift and you get back to balance and homeostasis. And this is such an important step that we want to skip because it requires us to slow down and fully feel our emotions. So for example, with the mom I was working with, the way she was thinking about her child was creating a lot of anxiety for her, a lot of disconnection, and even disgust, irritation, annoyance. And because of that, she was acting in a certain way that wasn't serving her or her child. So us talking it through helped her see that part, helped her see those beliefs. And then she wanted to change it immediately. So she was ready to just come up with a new thought. I'm going to just think differently. I'm going to feel better right now. And this is when we have to slow down and we have to do some inquiry and self-confronting. So I told her, slow down. First, I want to do a gut check. And I'll sometimes people are ready to move forward, but sometimes they're not. So I'll typically move in, and I want you to do this for yourself. You move in and you show yourself so much compassion, and we see where you are emotionally. The reason typically we want to move really quickly out of it is because it feels so terrible, the part that we've seen, that ugly part of ourselves. But the real reason that our nervous system has come up with this story is because it's trying to protect ourselves from something. We're trying to take care of ourselves. We're trying to help our child. We want them to be successful, and our brains might be registering this behavior that we're seeing as something that's not going to help them be successful. And potentially also we see their behavior meaning that we aren't being a successful parent. So we got to fix those things. You got to make their behavior better, because making their behavior mean they're rude and entitled and that I'm failing as a parent is going to move me into protection mode. It's very well intended. Our nervous system is trying to give us, a leg up, trying to help us out, but it's misguided. So what you need to do is stop, take a pause, see it, understand it, own it, all the stuff we talked about, awareness, in the awareness step and in the allow step. And if you aren't willing to own what you're doing, if you aren't willing to take full responsibility of what you have been creating in your life with compassion, you will never be able to change it, okay? We can't be constantly beating ourselves up and rejecting ourselves. So you see what you've been doing, how you've been judgmental, how you've been resisting, and that has made things worse. You see that chain of events. My judgmental thoughts is creating actions and results I don't like. And when you can sit in that, when you can see all of that through the lens of compassion, knowing you've been doing your best, regardless of how far below your capacity you've been showing up, then you're going to be able to start to shift things. But if you're constantly beating yourself up and rejecting yourself and rejecting the patterns of thoughts that you have in your life, you won't be able to change them. You can't have authority over something when you're showing up like that. You have to self-confront, own your thoughts, feel the emotions first. And this is often painful when we're not used to doing it and hard to look at. So be careful not to beat yourself up and careful not to try to change things right away. So what does that look like? Do you have to feel crappy all of the time? That's probably what you're thinking. Great. You're telling me just to feel all the negative emotions. That's not what I'm saying. But you do have to allow yourself to feel emotions that you are creating long enough to truly understand that you are the one creating it. You are the one creating those emotions, which is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Intentionally allow yourself to feel the negative emotions. There's so much power in knowing that you can feel that negative emotion. Because remember, if you're willing to feel any negative emotion, then nothing can stop you. If the worst thing that can happen is a negative emotion, then you know that there's nothing you aren't willing to do. So that moment of allowing yourself to accept that you're responsible for the results, that you've been creating these things in your life, that your thoughts and your emotions have been creating your reality, and you're accepting and allowing those emotions that have come up as a result in your body, you're allowing them to vibrate through your body. This is what allowing looks like. And most of us don't even know how to do this. I didn't know how to do this. I was trying to avoid negative emotions. I wanted to be positive and happy all of the time. Most of us are more aware of what it feels like to resist or to react to a negative emotion. We know what resisting shame feels like. We know what resisting anger or reacting to anger looks like. But how many of us really know what those emotions feel like when we're not avoiding them or reacting to them? That's a very key distinction. Are you willing to allow yourself to feel that emotion? Are you willing to own that you are the creator of your emotions? And we don't do this in a blame, shame kind of way. We do this in a way that allows us to own our life. Am I able to change how I feel and think right now in this moment? Maybe yes, maybe no. But do I know that I have the potential to change it? Knowing that I have that gives me the freedom to allow myself to look at it without blame and shame, to realize that seeing the negative cycles I'm in right now is what's going to allow me to create something better. That's what allowing is like. Am I willing to feel and know that there is no feeling that I can't feel? It's just a vibration in my body. That's it. Chemical reaction. So when someone says to me, I'm not willing to feel rejection, I'm not willing to feel unappreciated, I ask them why. First of all, remember, at some level, we're the one creating the emotion for ourselves. We don't even realize it. And second of all, it's just a vibration in your body. And yeah, it might feel terrible. It might feel so unpleasant. But avoiding that feeling is never going to change the results you're getting in your life. You're not going to react better. You're not going to have less frustration with your kids by not feeling it. So feel the emotion, let it pass through, allow that process of going from mad to sad to grow you up. It's just a vibration. And if you're willing to allow yourself to feel it, meaning you're willing to accept it, then you will gain authority over it. And then there is nothing that you can't do. So the first step, awareness, look inside your brain, see what's going on. You're going to be tempted to want to change it right away. You will be tempted to want to reject yourself and be mad about all the negative thinking, unless you've been doing this work for a while. But even if you have, there will be times where this will slip back up. So you want to be aware of this pattern and notice it if it comes up. Don't give in to that temptation. The next step is allowing. Am I willing to allow myself to see the effect of my thoughts and the result it's creating in my life? Am I willing to allow myself to feel the emotions I'm creating? Am I willing to be present with my brain? Am I willing to be present with my emotions? And when you show up like this for yourself and you allow yourself to be fully human, to feel the whole gamut of emotions and allow yourself to become the watcher or the observer of your life, this starts to shift things for you. Because when you start to allow yourself to observe, to feel, to see it with compassion, then you become the watcher. This is so important. When you learn how to be aware of your brain, meaning you're watching your thoughts instead of believing and being overtaken by your thoughts, when you do this, you immediately go into this place of being the observer, being the watcher, being the witness, the compassionate witness. Now, when you start witnessing your thoughts, you're going to get immediate relief. It's not going to solve all of the problems, but you're going to have relief because you're not identifying with them anymore. You aren't your thoughts. You're looking at your thoughts. You are not immediately at the effect of them. The compassionate observer, that perspective, when that comes in, which means you're able to look at your life from the point of view of the reader versus the main character in the novel, or the person watching the movie instead of the person on the main big screen, because you're making that distinction, things start to shift. And this is the awareness, this is the capacity that we have because of our prefrontal cortex. We can think about our thinking. It's something humans get to do. It's amazing. We can watch, witness, and observe ourselves almost from a step removed. We can do inquiry. We can question our thoughts. And the more that you can do that watching, that witnessing, the better you are going to be able to get yourself into a place of allowing and accepting and awareness. Now, once you get better at becoming aware of your emotions and thoughts, and then you start allowing yourself to have the emotional experience of all of the feelings that are coming up, the whole experience, you're allowing that to happen. No judgment, no shame. You're not feeling anger. You're not feeling frustrated. Then things start to shift. You start to see even the emotions one step removed. So I'm seeing the thoughts as, wow, that's really interesting. I'm thinking about my thinking, but now I'm observing my emotions. Ooh, I have some frustration. Oh, there's a little bit of irritation going through. Oh, now I have a little bit of anger. I have a little bit of shame in my body. It's temporary. It's passing through. We are the sky, the blue sky, and the clouds passing through are the thoughts and emotions, and we see them as different. We aren't the same thing. If you're willing to allow yourself to feel those feelings as part of the human experience, and you're willing to accept and allow this to be part of your life, it will change your life forever, because you're going to keep moving forward no matter what, because no emotion, no feeling, nothing is going to be too much for you. You are willing to feel anything. And as a parent, this is the process. This is the way, as they say in The Mandalorian. I love that phrase. It was really catchy. This is the way. And this awareness, allowing, and then using the wisdom that comes out of that, which is really the fruit that's coming out of the awareness and the allowing steps, the phases of the process, allows us to have wisdom to change. So once you've created that awareness and you've begun practicing allowing, the next step is to use that wisdom that's coming out of it to change. Now, the way that you know that you're ready to change your belief is because you've fully owned what you're thinking and you've felt the emotions that have come up all the way from mad to sad, resistance to surrender. You've owned them. You've owned the effect that they've had on your thinking and your feeling and your creating and your results. And from that place, you want to change, not to get rid of the discomfort of the result, not to get rid of the negative emotions that are coming up, but because you fully believe you've been doing your best and you're ready to unleash a bit more of your capacity to show up more kind, more loving, more compassionate, more patient, more of who you are. Now, let me tell you what it feels like and what this doesn't feel like. So it feels like I can continue to feel this negative emotion if I need to. I don't need to react to it. I'm able to hold space for it, and I can choose something different peacefully. That's what it looks like if you're ready. If you've gone through the awareness and the allowing, and now you have the wisdom to change. But if you're in a hurry to change it, if you want to change it immediately, if you want to start feeling better right this second, if you're feeling any of that, then you haven't fully gone through the allowing step yet. You haven't truly owned what is. You haven't fully felt the emotions of frustration and futility. And so even though you're going to want to change the thought, you're going to want to try to believe something different and feel something different, it'll be very, very hard to. You won't be able to. Why? Because you're doing it from a place of wanting to or needing to get out of a negative emotion. And you don't want to feel that negative emotion anymore. And you're rejecting and judging yourself for having this current thought and this result you're having. And you think that if I could just change the way I was thinking and get a better result, I would feel better. And I totally 100% understand what it feels like to be in this place. I've been here so many times, and I wanted to describe it to you so that when you feel it in yourself, you notice, oh, this is where I am. I probably need to step back and do a little bit more allowing, or maybe I haven't fully gotten all the awarenesses I need. So many of us are so uncomfortable. We just want to escape our current reality. And so the question I get from so many parents before they start working with me is, how do I change this thought? Or how do I get my child to stop doing, this behavior? Or how do I be patient when my child does this thing? How do I stop getting triggered by my kids? And basically what they're saying is, I need to change this immediately. I don't like what's going on and I want to stop it right now, which I get. Of course, that's what we're saying. Most parents that are asking me these questions have only dipped their toe in awareness. They know that there's something they want to change. They haven't gone through allowing, and I would say they haven't fully gone through awareness. And that's what's missing from them being able to create this sustainable change is going through the entire peace process, which is the 5-step way that we do this awareness, allowing, wisdom process. And you will know when you are fully owning that a thought you're thinking is creating the result in your life and that you don't want that anymore. When you see that, the change will almost exclusively come from within you. That's how you'll know you fully owned the thought and fully felt the emotion, is you can really see how this is going to start with me. This change that I want to see with my kids' behavior, it starts with me. We really see that. The change is going to come from inside. It's an inside out. It's an inside job, as they say. I'm the seed. I have the potential in here. I just got to bring it out. But it starts in here, not outside. You'll have processed the emotions. That shame, that guilt will be so weak that they aren't driving your actions anymore. You will see the effect of your thoughts, and you will see that it's not working, and you will change it from a place of peace, not from a feeling of avoiding, resisting, reacting. The decision you make about the situation and your thoughts about that situation is going to be made from a place of feeling sufficient. It will be made from a place of knowing that I can stay doing what I'm doing, or I can change. I don't have to be in a hurry either way. And I'm not making myself wrong for what I did in the past. I don't have to reject myself in order to change myself. And if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm just going to take responsibility for that. I'm going to realize I'm not ready to change it. I'm still having these old default patterns, and that's okay. This is going to take time. We're comfortable that things take time, and that typically shifts in our thinking and our feeling and our results we're creating abide by the laws of nature, and they happen gradually. So by taking responsibility for what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and I've allowed it, and I'm allowing the process to take as much time as it needs to, and for me to be as gentle with myself and my nervous system as I need to be, I'm okay when the discomfort comes up, when the judgment happens. I'm noticing it, and I'm using every time this happens as a cycle, as an awareness, allowing wisdom cycle to do better, I'm using the peace process to do better, to learn, to gain more wisdom. I refuse to let a challenging situation not be something I learn from. I mine gold from every obstacle. You will not be able to make a wise, peaceful decision if you haven't done the allow process. So if you find yourself saying, I don't know, I'm confused, I don't understand, it just means you are currently blocked from your own wisdom. So I'm always telling everyone, whenever you hear yourself saying, I don't know, I'm confused, I don't understand, you're usually just blocked. And all you have to do is go through the awareness, allowing, wisdom steps in that process to get yourself unblocked. So once you can tell you're in a place of allowing the experience, the situation, the thought, the emotion, you're allowing it to be how it is, and you find yourself in a place where you're owning what you've done in the past, you're not making yourself wrong for it. You're not making yourself wrong for the life you're living or the situations that you wish had gone better. Then and only then can you make changes. The changes may not happen as fast as you want, but here's the new reality and the truth you're coming from. They don't need to happen fast because you're not in such a hurry to get out of pain. If you're willing to allow the possibility that life is 50-50, meaning that possibly 50% of your life, you're going to be feeling a negative emotion, and that's not a problem. That feeling our emotions all the way through, whether it's an amazing emotion of joy or a sad emotion of disappointment, taking that trip all the way from resisting to surrendering and fully feeling the emotion is one of the most important parts of evolving. And that knowing that being willing to experience negative emotions is how you evolve into the highest version of yourself. It's how you create emotional maturity for yourself and how you will help your children create that emotional maturity you so desperately want for them. Because you know intuitively that if my child is willing to feel any negative emotion, they are unstoppable. They get to fulfill all of their dreams. So if you are in that place, then you will always be moving forward and you will be able to help your child move forward as well. And you will always keep evolving and becoming a better, more true version of yourself. And as we're experiencing this 50-50 in life, we don't have to feel all the resistance anymore. It doesn't have to feel like pain. It can feel like allowing ourselves to fully surrender to the human experience, to fully feel our emotions, to fully understand our nervous system and why we've been creating what we've been creating, and love ourselves through all of it. So to recap, I'm inviting you to increase your awareness and really look at what you've been thinking by using this awareness, allowing, wisdom process, which is another way for me to describe the peace process. So if you're in league, go in and deep dive into the peace process and make sure you don't skip the A step, the allow step. So use awareness to see what you're thinking, then move into allowing, really owning the steer, really owning the unintentional steer, owning what you're doing, owning what you're thinking, and most importantly, feeling those emotions all the way through that are coming up. And finally, from that place of allowing yourself to be right where you are and accepting this version of yourself in a peaceful, loving, compassionate place, you can then and only then use your wisdom to change, to learn, to grow from every situation, no matter how messy, no matter how off track, nothing will be off the table for you to be able to learn and grow from. And let's be real, it doesn't ever stop. No matter how much work you do, there's always more room to grow and evolve. There's more potential for you to become even more loving, more compassionate, more impactful with our lives. So the more you evolve and the more you grow, the more you're going to want to repeat this process, this peace process, this awareness, allowing, and then using the wisdom you've been able to mine from the experience to become the next version of yourself. You're going to want to repeat this process over and over and over again. It becomes a kind of addictive because you see another layer of your potential. You see another layer of you coming to the surface. So I invite you all to do this because it's so worth it. You want to be the best human. You want to be the best parent you possibly can be. And this is the way. Be honest with yourself. Take ownership for what you're creating. Feel your emotions all the way through. Allow yourself to learn and grow from every experience. Mine that wisdom and up-level your life. What's the alternative? You could hide. You could stay stagnant. You could choose not to become aware or present or very conscious of what you're creating. But none of us really like that. I believe it's embedded into every human to grow and to change and to progress. So don't hide. When you do that, you miss out on life. And no one wants to miss out on this amazing life that we're all living. So get to know yourself. It's so worth it. You're worth it. You weren't created by yourself. Something created you. And I think that something that created all of us was pretty amazing and wants all of us to fully experience ourselves and the amazing creation that every single one of us are. Oh, I love you all so much. I love this topic of awareness, allowing, and wisdom. I'm so glad we got to revisit it as I'm coming to an end of my travels. It's been one of my favorite processes that I've used nonstop these last 6 months, and I use all of the time in my life. Every time I get to one new level of awareness and allowing, and I'm able to glean and gain and mine the wisdom out of events, I see that there's another mountain to climb, another level to hit. And that's what I want for all of you today, so that you can be the most amazing parent for your children, and so that you can have the most amazing life for yourself. Okay, I'll talk to you all very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Go connect with your kids. Go connect with your kids. Oh, and if you don't mind, I know it's such a pain to do this, to go back to the podcast in the player and leave a review and subscribe. But if you could, I would really, really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this episode or other episodes, that would mean the world to me. It helps get the word of Connect Method Parenting out to the world, which is one of my missions in life. So I would be so helpful. And for those who have subscribed or have left a review, thank you so much. I know it is not the easiest thing to do to go leave a review on a podcast, but I appreciate every one of you. Thank you for listening today, and we will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening, you all. If you are ready to learn more about Connect Method Parenting, if you've been listening to the podcast and you think, ooh, I'd love to be able to implement this in my life and with my parenting more, then check out Pivot. It's my 8-week program where we deep dive into learning and implementing Connect Method Parenting so that you can take this information and transform your parenting journey. Head over to connectmethodparenting.com to find out when the next group starts.